Is Hamzat going to be able to take me down? Absolutely. Absolutely, he'll be able to take me down. This is how a fight works. I would hope so. Isn't he like some Swedish champion or something? I would hope he could take me down. But then he has to deal with me on the ground and he has to keep me there. Can I take Hamzat down? Absolutely. Am I going to take Hamzat down? Absolutely. I'm not scared of Hamzat wrestling. I'm not evading. I'm not trying to stay off the ground with Hamzat. That's the mistake everybody makes.
This is my prediction video for DDP versus Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 319. Now, starting with Khamzat's strengths, obviously he's an excellent wrestler. He can push a first round pace like no one else can. He's taken down every opponent he's faced, even the likes of Kamaru Usman, who has excellent takedown defense, I think above 90%. And he has a great submission ability, especially the Darce choke, and he's dominated every single first round he's fought in. And also in the Whittaker fight, he seemed to be a lot more calculated and not as reckless. He still pushed the pace, but he seemed to be a bit more calm, and that allowed him to beat an elite anti-grappler in Whittaker. He's also got great power in his hands, as well as the fact that there's the intimidation factor, where most of the opponents he's faced have gone and they're obviously scared to death of the takedown. Now, looking at DDP's strengths, I think he's got numerous more. Starting off with the most obvious, he's very awkward, the goofy man himself. But I just think that's an underrated strength, because every single opponent he's faced has been confused, because to beat your opponent you need to have a rhythm to exploit certain things that they do, but DDP doesn't have a rhythm. He just does whatever. So I think Khamzat would struggle with that. And then looking at his other strengths, he's very physical, he's very strong, athletic, explosive, and he also has a great fight IQ, and that plays into his adaptability, as you can see with numerous of his fights like Adesanya, Whittaker, Strickland. He was losing those at certain points, but he was able to adapt and win. He knows how to win, is essentially his biggest strength. He also has underrated grappling, as we can see, submitted Adesanya, first one to do it. He submitted that whole jiu-jitsu team. And I think that he's also got a great chin, and he just has the will to win. His mentality is his biggest strength, in my opinion. He's broken down every single opponent he's faced, and he's got, most crucially, an insane cardio. Not even more than cardio, he's got an insane will that allows him to push through any physical discomfort. As you can actually see with his stats, his accuracy and his volume actually go up during every round, which is pretty insane. And then if we look at Khamzat's weaknesses, his biggest one, that's the elephant in the room, is his cardio. And that's, I don't want to diminish his actual natural cardio, but that's based upon his pacing, which has been seen numerous times in the Gilbert Burns fight, Usman fight. Usman was coming off the couch, Khamzat just went full pace, and then you could see he was physically tired, but especially the Gilbert Burns fight. And against a guy with cardio like DDP, that is a major weakness. And then he's also, compared to DDP, got a limited striking ability, which is not to say that he's a bad striker, but he's definitely susceptible to certain strikes, like leg kicks especially, and certain straight punches. So that would include his overall boxing defense. And we've also seen a lack of adaptability, I believe, in his fights when he faces adversity. And then if we look at DDP's weaknesses, I think the major ones for this fight would be that he's shown poor submission defense in the past against the likes of Derek Brunson and people like that, where there's been a lot of cases where he's been susceptible to things like the Darce choke, though these were never finished, and he can definitely be taken down, as people like Whittaker have taken him down in the past. And with his awkward style, he's shown, I guess, a lack of fight IQ at times, but it's hard to say, he's just too goofy. And now if we look at both of their paths to victory, starting off with Khamzat, I mean, it's pretty obvious. He wants to take him down in the first round, put an insane pace on him, and submit him in the first round, or potentially the second round, but Khamzat would be an idiot if he didn't do this, because knowing DDP's cardio. And then DDP's game plan is obviously to make it out of the first and second rounds and then push a pace on Khamzat and take him into deep waters, and then that would lead to either a late finish or a decision. How I think this fight will play out plays largely into one aspect, which may sound a bit odd, but it's the mentality of DDP. Because when you're facing Khamzat, the most crucial thing I think is the intimidation factor. Because if you're going in there, people are saying, oh, DDP has to survive the first round. If that's what your mentality is, you're giving Khamzat all the power. But if DDP, as he said in several podcasts, is that he is going to bring the fight to Khamzat, he will get taken down, but he's willing to fight no matter where the fight goes. He's going to throw up submissions, scramble hard, and he's going to punch Khamzat in his face. So I think that the mindset is probably the biggest aspect why I'm leaning towards DDP, as I think that mindset will allow him to make the first round competitive. He's still going to lose it, but I think he will be able to make it out of the first round. DDP just doesn't quit, and he's willing to die in there. And how I see the first round playing out, well, I think obviously they're going to meet in the centre of the octagon, and I actually have a feeling that DDP is going to shoot within the first 10 seconds. Well, that would be the smart thing to do, because that's obviously what Khamzat always does. So if you wanted to throw him off his game, you'd shoot on him. It doesn't matter if you're successful or not, but that's throwing Khamzat off his rhythm, which is key. So I can see either DDP shooting on him, but obviously Khamzat's going to get the better of him because his wrestling will be superior in the first round for sure. But I see DDP scrambling hard. I see him throwing up submission attempts. I don't think they'll be successful. I do see Khamzat getting the better of DDP in the grappling exchanges, definitely. But I see that DDP will be able to get up at points and will be able to just make it an awkward fight and push a fast pace. And I think Khamzat could have some close submission attempts, but I think DDP has been training, like he knows what Khamzat wants to do. So I think he's going to drill into his head all of these submission defenses, and I just don't see it how likely it is that Khamzat's going to win this in the first round as DDP. Also, the fact that Khamzat only weighed in at 183, I mean, he's still very strong, but this guy's 230. So I think that will give him at least enough time to survive the first round. And I think DDP has the right mindset for the first round, so he's going to make it a scrap. Khamzat will get the better of him, but it's going to be a battle rather than an execution. So then, coming out of the first and second rounds, I believe that Khamzat's shots will begin to decline in effectiveness, which we've seen in numerous fights, like, for example, Usman, where Usman was able to defend his shots later on. And then I believe that later on, DDP is just going to begin laying on like a striking volume on Khamzat. And I believe Khamzat's, relatively basic boxing style will not be able to keep up, because, I mean, this guy outstruck Adesanya, he outstruck Strickland, who are some of the best strikers in the game. And Khamzat is not the most adaptive striker, so I just don't really see him being able to keep up. And I think DDP is going to turn this into a fight, and he's going to drag Khamzat into deep waters. So that's why I'm predicting DDP by 4th round TKO. You can hate me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right.
But that's because I'm built different, and I'm going to show that again come the 16th.